Hmm. Hi there. Uh, what to say? I watched the Naked Gun movie. That was more or less what I expected it to be. It was very much a funny film, very much making self references, very much wasn't trying to be any more than it had to be a Naked Gun movie. Everything was more or less just what I was expecting. It was just a good, funny film. Liked all the references, liked all the jokes, in jokes, liked Liam Neeson's rather comical approach to everything. I don't know. It was hilarious. It was just plain old funny. Um, it's it's one of those films where it doesn't really have a storyline per se, but it doesn't really have to have a storyline. It's just mostly just in joke references, and it doesn't have to be trying to establish characters. There's no real characters in that movie. It's more or less just a funny little film where they consistently poke jabs at themselves. They make yeah, I don't know. It was just a funny little film. It There was a few times where it might have almost ran the danger of overstepping its welcome, but I think it more or less made the mark. Um, it was it it was having fun with itself, like a movie like that should be. I like the part where they just have they have this random girl show up out of nowhere, run into the bank. Everybody's like, "What's going on here? Why is there a little girl running into the bank?" I don't know, but that just turned into the over the topness that you would expect a Naked Gun to have, and just over and over again, them having rather random topics generated by rather random things that they were saying. It was just it worked out. It was all working. It was all clicking. It almost reminds me of the Beetlejuice movie that came out because it wasn't. It made a lot of self references. It made a lot of in joke in timing. But all in all, it worked out in the end. Um, I like the fact that Pamela Anderson now subtly looks sort of resembling her actual age. Actually, I think she looks a little old in this film. I can't believe that she's only what 57 years old, and she looks kind of like an old woman. It's just fun. It was just funny for that purpose. I don't know. It worked. The the whole point of Naked Gun is it's actually ironic because in the old ones the actor was not actually originally a comic timed actor, and I guess that's the same thing with Liam Neeson. Although he was he has been known to be capable of doing something like that, but no. It was all very amusing to watch. It was all very amusing to watch them try and take stuff out of context and not try and be totally, not trying to be anything remotely serious about what they were doing. I like to take the chair stuff. I like the whole, uh, was your mother a saint? No, she was this, she was that. She was making all these football references. It's like, that is not the way I was expecting them to take those jokes. nonetheless, it was a fine little film, and it didn't. I don't know. I haven't really seen the other Naked Gun films, so I don't know how well it runs with them, but it seemed to work out on its own end. It didn't seem to have to do. It didn't seem to make too many references, although they do make the brief thing about everybody's father and the police force. But yeah, I like the parts. I don't know if there was anything that was truly amazing, because it all just seemed to have its own flow. There was nothing amazing about it because it was just a Naked Gun movie, and it didn't have to. It didn't. There's nothing. It's not that it's amazing. It's the fact that it's just doing what a Naked Gun movie does, where it knows that it's trying to run in two different directions of the joke. It's trying to not take it. It's trying not to be. Actually, what I like about it is that there's that one scene where the guy seems to remove his scar and then reapplies it. But what was funny about it is that it kept changing. It seemed to change position because it was on one side of his face and then moved to the other side of the face. They didn't indicate that he was looking in a mirror, but whatever. Maybe he was. Or maybe that was also the joke, but it doesn't matter. That it was all the fact that everything was given some brief setups. The ending was almost expected because it didn't. It seemed like they were sitting a very long time on that sequence, and then they suddenly decided, oh yeah, now we're gonna have to move along with this scene and have it be another scene now. And then they change it up and say, oh, why is everybody standing so still? It's like, oh, they did actually decide to go there. They decided to have this extra sequence where they choose to show everybody standing it was obviously a CGI sequence, but it still is funny how they maintained the composure. And then they said, oh, wait a minute, what's this? Is this a camera? This is who are you people? No, no, there was so much silliness in the film. There was so much vagueness to it. I don't know. It's one of those films you gotta see it to believe it, because to explain it to is to ruin all the best jokes and to not make the point. Sad part is, it doesn't seem to be making that terribly load of money, so I'm not entirely sure why. I guess maybe modern audiences aren't really big into that kind of type of comedy anymore, because it does seem to be making referential treatment of itself, and I'm not sure that. I mean, if you look at the top like 5 films this year, it seems like it's movies for things that the older generation maybe doesn't have as much experience with, and the new generation really isn't big on movies like The Naked Gun, and they're more based on movies like Minecraft and such. But no, the movie was having a lot of fun with its notion of everything is established as an in-joke, and I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't know what to all say about it, because it was just a nice little fun film to watch. It's not trying to be a true drama. In fact, its comedy is so different than a lot of comedies that have come out the last few years that it's hard to compare to any of those comedies, because it's not really trying to be a new school comedy. It's trying to reference old school comedy, or whatever you might call old school comedy, but it does a well swelled job of being what it is. So yeah, I would say about a 7.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, something like that. It was a nice little film to watch. Cool. Okay. See ya.